Welcome to today's video. First, we'll challenge the popular salary multiplier benchmarks like 3 times your income by age 40 and explain why they often mislead. Then we'll reveal the metrics that truly drive retirement readiness, including savings rate, projected spending, and how to think about home equity. Finally, we'll build a simple, actionable plan you can start using today. Here's our roadmap. First, we'll debunk the salary multiplier trap. Next, we'll cover the role of home equity. After that, we'll shift into the metrics that truly matter, namely your savings rate and projected retirement spending, followed by the 25 times spending guideline. Then we'll walk through a step-by-step planning process, run a quick case study, and test your understanding with short quizzes. Before we dive in, a quick disclaimer. This is educational content and not individualized financial advice. You should consult a qualified fiduciary advisor for guidance tailored to your circumstances. Also, rules of thumb are starting points, not prescriptions, and past performance does not guarantee future results. With that covered, let's move forward. Let's start by addressing the salary multiplier trap. Targets like 3 times your income by age 40 can cause either a false sense of security or unnecessary panic. These benchmarks are appealing because they're simple, but they often overlook crucial variables like actual spending, investment strategy, and the treatment of home equity. Now let's examine exactly what makes them misleading. Here's why age-based targets mislead. First, they rarely incorporate your specific spending patterns, which are the primary drivers of your retirement needs. Second, they tend to ignore your savings rate and investing approach, both of which determine your trajectory and timeline. Third, they often exclude home equity or treat it inconsistently, even though your primary residence is not a liquid retirement asset unless you plan to downsize substantially. Fourth, they impose generic benchmarks that don't reflect your actual cash flows. As a result, they nudge you towards timing and fear instead of focusing on strategy and control. Next, we'll visualize how your retirement budget actually breaks down. This pie chart illustrates a typical retirement budget. Housing remains significant, even with a paid-off home due to taxes, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. Healthcare is another major slice that often rises with age. Taxes can remain material depending on withdrawal sources and location. Food, transportation, and insurance persist. Leisure or travel may be flexible, but it should still be budgeted. The key takeaway is that your spending mix drives your target more than any salary multiplier. Now, let's turn to the metrics that actually matter. Let's focus on what truly matters. First, target a robust savings rate of 20% or more of your gross income and sustain it over time. Second, invest consistently in diversified, low-cost index funds so compounding can work in your favor. Third, estimate retirement spending realistically. A common starting framework is to accumulate approximately 25 times your anticipated annual spending, an approximation of a 4% initial withdrawal rate. Fourth, recognize that a paid-off home reduces cash outflows but does not eliminate housing costs, such as taxes, insurance, and maintenance. Finally, track controllable levers: your contribution rate, investment costs, allocation, and spending, instead of relying on generic age-based multipliers. Next, we'll compare the old approach to a cash flow-first mindset. On the left, salary multipliers are simple but shallow, tend to ignore personal spending patterns, and are unclear about how to treat home equity. They can also induce panic or complacency and are not particularly action-oriented. On the right, the cash flow-first approach anchors the plan to your actual spending needs, explicitly limits reliance on home equity, pushes a higher savings rate with low costs, and is measurable on a regular cadence. It also adapts as your life circumstances evolve. Next, let's translate this philosophy into steps you can follow. Here's a practical sequence. First, tally your current annual spending. Second, forecast your retirement spending category by category. Third, factor in a paid-off home but include taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. Fourth, estimate guaranteed income from sources like Social Security and pensions. Fifth, compute your target nest egg as approximately 25 times your annual spending, net of guaranteed incomes. Sixth, set a savings rate of at least 20% and automate contributions. Seventh, prefer low-cost index funds and rebalance periodically to keep fees minimal. Eighth, update your assumptions annually to reflect life changes. Next, let's quantify housing costs that persist even with no mortgage. This table highlights ongoing housing costs that remain even when the mortgage is paid off. Property taxes and insurance continue. Maintenance and repairs should be budgeted at roughly 1 to 2% of home value annually, though this varies. Utilities persist, and HOA or condo fees may apply. It's also wise to maintain a reserve for upgrades or aging-in-place modifications.
With these costs in mind, we'll pause for a quick quiz to check your understanding so far.
Quiz time. The question is, which metric should drive your retirement target the most? Option A, your salary and age. Option B, your aggressive savings rate and projected retirement spending. Option C, your home's market value. Option D, the latest media benchmark. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Your aggressive savings rate and projected retirement spending are the core drivers. Salary and age, home value, and media benchmarks do not capture your actual cash flow needs.
Now let's address the home equity question directly.
Home equity is beneficial, but not a liquid retirement income source unless you plan to downsize significantly or otherwise monetize it. Even when the mortgage is paid off, you must still budget for taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. This is why treating your home as a primary funding source can lead to shortfalls. Next, we'll lay out a realistic savings timeline that prioritizes contributions and spending control. This timeline emphasizes savings and spending control as the key milestones rather than fixed salary multiples. Starting early with a 20% savings rate and automating contributions builds momentum. Periodic rebalancing and fee reduction preserve returns. A mid-career mortgage payoff can help, but it's not the whole story. Annual spending audits and updates to your 25 times target keep your plan aligned. In the final decade before retirement, increasing savings or trimming spending closes any remaining gap.
Next, let's run a simple case study to translate these ideas into numbers.
Consider this case study. The household earns $100,000 and saves 20%, or $20,000 per year. They currently spend $60,000 and project retirement spending of $50,000. Using the 25 times guideline, their target nest egg is approximately $1.25 million. The strategy is to maintain at least a 20% savings rate, invest in low-cost index funds, rebalance periodically, and audit spending annually. With time and compounding, this approach aligns with the target. Next, we'll map the decision factors you should keep in mind. This mind map centers on the retirement plan and branches into spending, income sources, savings rate, investments, risks, and levers. Spending categories include housing, healthcare, taxes, lifestyle, and a buffer. Income sources might include Social Security, pensions, annuities, and rental net income. The savings rate branch stresses 20% or more, with automation and periodic increases. The investments branch highlights low-cost index funds, rebalancing, and fee control. Risks encompass longevity, market volatility, inflation, and health shocks. Finally, levers include delaying retirement, reducing spending, saving more, or using part-time work. With these factors clear, let's take one more quick quiz. Second quiz. The question is, when can home equity be counted toward your retirement funding? Option A, always. It's as good as cash. Option B, only if you plan to downsize or otherwise monetize it. Option C, only if your salary multiple is below target. Option D, never, under any circumstances. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Home equity can contribute to retirement funding only if you plan to monetize it, such as through downsizing or selling. Otherwise, it is illiquid and should not be assumed to cover spending. Next, let's summarize the key takeaways. These are the key takeaways. Avoid salary multipliers. Focus on savings rate and realistic spending. Use approximately 25 times annual spending, net of guaranteed income, as a planning anchor. Treat home equity as helpful but illiquid unless you monetize it. Automate contributions of 20% or more. Use low-cost index funds, and rebalance. Revisit your plan yearly and adjust as circumstances change. Now, let's wrap up with a concise summary and your next steps. In summary, discard age and salary benchmarks in favor of a plan built around your spending and savings rate. Use the 25 times spending guideline as a starting anchor. Treat home equity cautiously, and remember ongoing housing costs. Automate contributions. Prefer low-cost investing. Review annually, and adjust with intention. Finally, here's how you can support the channel and join the conversation. Thanks for watching. If this video helped, please like it, share it with a friend who needs it, and subscribe for more evidence-based money content. In the comments, tell us your spending-based target and which lever you'll pull next. Save more, spend less, or retire later. See you in the next one.